So this room right here is what I refer to as my fish room. It's the room with the most tanks, and I'll be doing most of the work in here today. What we're going to do is just walk around, look at each tank, give you a brief history of them, and let you know what maintenance I'm going to be performing on them today. And then we're going to go out and just take a peek at a few other tanks. And at the end of the video, I'm going to just play some music and get a real good look inside of the tanks after they're cleaned up, and zoom in on some stuff, play some music. This right here, this is the first rack I ever set up in here. I call it the shrimp rack. And right across the top, I got 3 rimless 10-gallon tanks, each with the same grow light on it and a sponge filter. They all have crushed black lava rock as well as fluvostratum. And I'm going to be cleaning the glass, cleaning the lids on all these tanks. And in this tank right here, I'm going to remove these repens that are growing in the back. The next 2 tanks, but again, just going to clean this tank up. But I have to catch some snails. There are a lot of trumpet snails in here, as well as over here. And these are orange and green shrimp in here. And I'm going to be thinning out this plant and moving it over where the repens were. And these right here, I'll just top these plants off and replant them. And then down here, I'm trying to spawn some Dorfrasboras. I had a pair of cichlids in here for a year. And although they were laying their eggs, the eggs never hatched, and I found out why. It's because I have extremely hard water, and the calcium and the carbonates and stuff, they're clogging up the egg membrane, and they're not able to breathe, and they're dying. The water's just so hard. What I used to do was bring city water here, dechlorinate it, and I was adding that to my tanks, but I stopped doing that, and now all I do is top them off, and all those carbonates are just getting more and more concentrated. That's what this is right here. It's a calcium line. I'll be removing that. And I'm also going to put some root tabs in for these repens right here. At the end of the video though, I will get much better shots, and there'll be close-up shots right in the tanks with music playing and stuff. This tank I set up at the same time. It's got some black tetras in there. There's also an upside-down catfish somewhere. Both of these tanks have the same lights, just like the tanks up above, and overflow filters on these 2 tanks. This one's got black blasting sand, and this one has pool filter sand with some pea gravel. Now this whole rack and all these tanks are well over a year and a half, if not 2 years old. So just cleaning all the tanks in here up. I'm gonna clean up the aquascape a little bit, do some trimming, moving some plants around, clean up the filters. The sponge filters that are in all 3 of these tanks up top, they're not running right now because the pump stopped working, but I do have another pump here that I'll be attaching to get that going. Now this tank right here, I don't know, this is maybe 5 months old, and I was trying to get my green shrimp. I moved all my greens in here, but they all turned out to be brown. This could be a future project for some sort of a escape. Right now it's kind of in reserve as an isolation tank if I need it. Got some plants growing out of the top, nothing special there. It's just pea gravel. Got some Java moss in there, or not Java moss, Java fern. Now over here, I refer to this as my beta ecosystem rack. And I'm going to show you these tanks in the order that I set them up. This tank right here, I think I'm just going to add some new bulbs for water lilies in the back, and I do have some other plants I might move in here. I'm going to clean this up, get rid of some of the algae, and I'm going to add some shrimp in here. I haven't done anything with this tank in so long, and it shows. I got a beta in here. There is a heater in here for him. Other than that, the The other tanks really don't have any heaters or filtration other than the plants and the deep substrate. I got some long-tailed Danios in here. These plants right here in the front are what I'm going to remove and put into the other tank I just showed you. This tank's doing pretty good. And then after this tank, I put this tank here. This tank, let me get a light so we can see in there a little better. This tank here doesn't have any fish in here. It had a lot of scuds, but the temperature has just plummeted in these tanks because there's no heater and it's winter here. But I'd like to get some nano fish or something in here eventually. Just some roots in the back from all the house plants that are growing out of here. There is some swim room in there, but that's something for a future project as well. And up top here, I just got a bunch of house plants and stuff growing out. The deep substrate and all the plants, you know, that's the filter. I really like this look on top. I like to scape inside, outside of the tank. Then after that was the hanging bog tank. Turn this light off so we can see in there. Now, as the temperature dropped, and I mean it really dropped here, I'll show you outside. Technically, it's spring, right? It's spring, but look what it looks like where I live. It is 28 degrees outside right now. This room actually doesn't get no warmer than 68 degrees and sometimes even colder. And I was really surprised at just how cold the tanks got. Let me see what this tank says it is right here. It's looking like it's 50 degrees. It's cold. We'll get back to this tank and just let you know what's going on in there. But here's the hanging bog. If you guys had ever seen that, the floating bog. There is nothing. The moss is no longer floating. It sank. But all the life in here disappeared. There were so many things: scuds, seed scrimp, copepods, water fleas. There was dragonfly larvae, lacewing larvae, or pupils actually in here. All types of worms and all kinds of stuff. But I think it's just because the temperature dropped so much that I'm hoping that what has happened is all that stuff's just kind of in the substrate or whatever and waiting for the temperature to warm up. Now, if I have some I'll try to find some clips to show you what this tank looked like. About 2 weeks ago, the temperature went up and the house got up to 75 degrees for at least a week. And I did start seeing some stuff swimming around in here, but it's all gone again. And I'm hoping once the temperature goes up, I know this tank looks ugly, but I just had natural, not natural, but locally harvested, oh, there's some seed shrimp. You're not gonna see them on this camera. Oh, and some copepods too. Oh, there's a few little things swimming around in here. But I think it's because the water's cold. This tank was like a cloud of life. Oh, and there's some flatworms, probably planaria. Nothing like it was. All the plants are kind of gone. But I was using this tank to supplement this tank, which was the is the Hardwood Lake tank. I named it that because I went to Hardwood Lake. It's the name of a lake by me, and I collected all kinds of life out of here. I'll show some clips. Now there is a small heater, but it's insignificant, just touching the glass. This tank's cold. I don't know what the temperature is. So this is an experiment. I'm not doing nothing with these tanks. I want to see what happens when the temperature actually goes up and see if all that stuff comes out. I'm experimenting with these natural tanks to see if, to try to perfect it for me so that I can set up a larger one, maybe a 60-gallon tank. This is a dirted tank. This is a Father Fish inspired tank. A bunch of my tanks are. It's a dirted tank with some black blasting sand. I got some locally harvested driftwood and some dragonstone in here, but most of the plants came right out of that lake with so much life. Now, over here, these are my first 2 dirted tanks that I ever did. And this was the first one down here. I keep meaning to replant this. This is supposed to be a grow out tank for plants. I do have some red cherry barbs and a blue beta in here, but I put way too much soil in here. I got like maybe 3 inches of soil, 2 inches of substrate, if not more, or I mean sand on top of the soil. Way too much, way too deep. It's eliminating some of the swim room and grow room for the plants. This tank will be torn down and redone and be the permanent home for the African leaf fish that I have. But I want to grow out of it at least one more time before I tear it down and redo it for them. And then this was my second attempt for a dirted tank, a much more appropriate level of substrate. It was only about 2 inches of soil and then another maybe 2 inches of sand. I've done more experimentation. I now know that I only really need like not even a full inch of soil and then like 2 inches of sand to cap it. So in this tank here, I have an issue with my Anubis. Now I have really hard water, like I said. I don't know if that is some sort of a calcium buildup on them leaves, or if this is because of inadequate circulation, but all of my Anubis, and I never had this problem when I was using city water to, back when I used to do water changes, or even after I stopped doing my water changes, I was still topping my tanks off with city water, but as I got more and more tanks, that just wasn't practical, and I just stopped with the city water. And I started noticing this issue. It's like a hard, thick layer on all of my plants, and then there is algae growing on them, and I'm sure that's because of inadequate flow. I do have a pump a circulation pump I'll be putting in here to circulate the water to keep that detritus and stuff off the leaves. I don't think it's a nutrient deficiency because the leaves aren't actually changing color. It's some kind of a hard coating. So let me know what you think that might be. Yeah, I just don't know. I don't have a lot of experience with tanks. I'm learning, I'm experimenting. I'm only about 2 years into it with the tanks. And also, here, let me get her over. Put my finger in, she'll come right up. Look at her. I can't see her. Let's get her over here into the light. Come here, little girl. Look at her, her fins. Just within the last week or so, I don't know if they're just growing out. She's becoming mature. We're not really getting a good view. Her fins don't look tattered or tore up or nothing, the tips, but can I get her to come down? But the ends of all her fins are now see-through. The fin looks healthy. I'll get a better view at the end of the video. But let me know if that's what you think that is, if it's just what she's growing out to as she becomes a mature fish, or what. So now I want to show you where all my shrimp started out. These 3 tanks up here. I moved my fish from one tank, or my shrimp from one tank, divided them up by color and put them into these tanks. And they all came from this one tank out here in this room that I call the nook. It's the main growing nook for the houseplants. And they all started out from this tank. I have some Dorfres boars. This tank's definitely 2 years old. And I had just put 2, one red, one orange shrimp. I bought them, it's all they had at the store. I did not know that they already had eggs on them, and they hatched. And at one point, I literally had nearly 1,000 shrimp in here. I forget the name of the video, but it is documented. It was just crazy how many shrimp were in here. I was way overfeeding the tank. I did have there is an air stone, it's just not running. But I was way overfeeding the tank, and the whole bottom was a carpet of Detritus worms. I don't have that on video, but that was pretty cool. And so many shrimp. Let's see, what can we do now? We'll go into the shrimp room. Now, in the shrimp room, I call it the shrimp room. It's not exclusively for shrimp, but if you look in here, so I'll start over here. This is what I call Shrimp Mountain. And other than sticking my hands in here with a razor blade to clean out the calcium line periodically, I've never put my hands in this tank, and I think this tank's 11 months old, if not a year. And there are a lot of shrimp in here. It's just some fluval stratum with some black blasting sand. Yeah, I don't do nothing with this. There is a heater for this one. The filters, the deep substrate, the aquatic plants, and all of these house plants growing out of the top. This tank right here, I had another tank that sprung a leak. I haven't been in this tank since I set this up 4 or 5 months ago. Everything seems to be doing just fine in here. In here I just have some more of those Dorfres boars. This tank I'll also be adding some city water to try to lower the pH and see if I can't get them to spawn. They used to spawn so well for me when I was using the city water. But now I know the water is just too hard. Moving down. This tank, I don't know how old this tank is, 6 months or so. Other than cleaning the glass, I have not been in this tank yet. And this is the orange shrimp. Basically what I seem to have to do is take all the colors that I want, like these orange. I took orange, put them into a tank, let them reproduce. I kept calling it, and then when they were almost all reproducing true, I took them out and I put them in here. Now all of these guys seem to be reproducing true. I've never seen any other color in here. Yeah. This tank I might clean up today too. This will be an easy one. I want to trim some of these plants up. So now this next tank. This next tank is a real problem for me. This was my Blue Dreams tank. I do have a beta in here. But this beta right here, he's not in a very healthy tank. Look at him flaring real good. It has some blue-green algae. It is a hybrid of bacteria and algae, and I do have some antibiotics I'm going to put in this tank. It should clear up within 1 to 2 days. And then I'm going to probably rescape this tank and move him out of here. I'm going to move him out of here and put him into that first tank out in the nook that I had set up for the shrimp and put him in there. I can't keep him in here because I want to try to start another green colony, see if I can't get a green colony to work in here. I can't have him in here. This tank was loaded with shrimp. He just took them out. There's not one shrimp in here no more. But yeah, I gotta clean this up. I'm gonna do a video actually on dealing with this issue. I'm gonna go start cleaning up. I'll probably get a few clips of me cleaning up some of these tanks. So I just got these little bowls here or whatever. I got betas in these originally, and I cut a slit in the side, an opening, and I got a rock in there. I'm just throwing some algae wafer in here. I can catch a bunch of these snails. There are a lot of snails. They're consuming the food, competing with food for the shrimp. So I've already cleaned up most of the tanks and getting ready to do that walkthrough that I do at the end of the video. Just putting some leaf litter and other botanicals in here. And I still gotta put the root tabs in as well. Here's those snails that I caught. Those are all snails. I gotta do this several more times. That little pile right there is about 20. And I got all these. So I caught several hundred of them out of there. Gonna have to do it several more times. Now, I put my glasses on and looked at the thermometer in here. It's actually 65 in this tank. And up here, I'm gonna add some shrimp. Oh. I'll give the beta something to do. He can run around, chase them, maybe get a meal.
Dodgy. Dodgy.